Welcome back, Heat Seekers. Happy Tuesday. This is the Dynasty Heat Seeker Show, and tonight we got a fun one. We're going to do some live tiers. We updated our Dynasty rankings between the three of us, and we're going to tier it tonight for you and have a little fun with it. So we're going to give you some top-end running backs, some RB1s, some RB2s, kind of where we're at, and have a little fun with the conversations. As always, like, subscribe, hit the notification icon. You can stay up to date with all our video drops, all our live streams, all that good stuff. With that being said, Mr. Sullivan, how are you tonight, my friend?
Doing very well. Thank you, Mr. Menendez. Thanks for having me as per usual. Looking forward to some running back tiering. Looking forward to some more runs from the Red Sox as they only have two. How you doing tonight, Anthony?
I'm doing good. Unfortunately, my San Francisco Giants are not in the playoffs any longer, so that's kind of a bummer.
Got screwed.
Warriors kick off the NBA season tonight, though, so I can kind of shift gears into some NBA, and hopefully the Niners, after losing 3 in a row, can turn things around in the football realm.
I'm already on the hockey. My Red Wings are 1-1, baby.
That's good. Go Wings. So
best team in Detroit today.
Who cares about football? We got basketball, hockey, baseball covered. We're good.
Just talk about
Pistons are in the middle of a rebuild. Red Wings are too. I mean, they're putting up.
Man, I remember when the Red Wings were so good for so long, and I just hated them. I hated it because they were so good, and now they're so they're not as good, and now I don't even really care about them anymore. I didn't even think about them until I saw your hat.
2008 was the last time we won a title, and it's just ridiculous. It's like, come on, you're the team that's supposed to win every few years.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. Stevie Y will bring it back. Don't worry.
And Stevie I trust, because so far so good.
100%.
So tonight we're going to do some tiers. We're going to have a little fun with it, and we are going to give you about our top 42 to 43 running backs, and it'll be interesting to see the conversations that come from it, because pre-show there are already debates going on about where we put people. So with that being said, Mr. Sullivan, go ahead and talk us through who are in our running back number 1 overall tier.
All right. So in that tier, we start off with Christian McCaffrey. We have Jonathan Taylor, my Minnesota Vikings Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, rookie running back Najee Harris, and Tennessee Titans beast of a man, Derrick Henry.
Oof. Mr. Leone.
King Henry. So if this was redraft, I think this would be pretty easy, having King Henry up there. I was a little surprised, though, that you guys both wanted him up there for Dynasty, top tier. Sully, who has been very, I guess, maybe loud on this subject, is one of the people that come to mind when it's like, hey, sell Derrick Henry now. And I'm never opposed to selling someone when they're at the top of their tier. But at the same time, I was still kind of surprised to see Sully have him in that top tier. I mean, we're talking number 1 running back overall potential. And in Dynasty, I think that means not just this year, but probably maybe even next year. So I was just kind of curious, maybe Sully could maybe explain his rationale on there for that. I mean, I personally have him up there. I don't think he's a must sell personally, but I'd like to hear Sully explain more on that.
Yeah, after last week in the Lamar Jackson debate, I think I was a little bit wrong there, to be totally honest with you. And when we talk about potential upside, Derrick Henry absolutely has running back number 1 overall upside. He's showing us that right now. My personal opinion is that when he hits a wall, it's going to be a cliff, and it's going to be a very fast and quick demise. But that being said, we're still talking about a guy who's on pace for like 500 touches this year, 2,600 rushing yards, and like almost 30 touchdowns. So he's on pace to have the 3rd best fantasy season in the history of fantasy football at the PPR scoring. So I don't know, man. Like, do I think you should sell Derrick Henry? Abso-frickin-lutely. More so today than yesterday, and more so than the 2 days before that, because this man is on an incredible run and an incredible role, and it just simply is not sustainable. And I keep seeing all this, Derrick Henry's not like everybody else. He's built different, this, that, and everything else. I get it, but come on. He's not going to score 3 touchdowns a game almost every game. He's done it 3 times already this season. So he's going to have second half regression. and then he's going to have right off the cliff regression. But when we look at this as potential, like where I aired last week, I think Derrick Henry, Brad, tell me if I'm wrong, has that potential.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry has RB1 overall potential. He's a guy that I will always say sell, because I don't think you're going to get his value any higher than it is, and it just it continues to go up. But I'm always the guy that says sell if your team isn't competing. Like, I don't want to be in the middle. I don't want to be a team that's kind of a playoff contender but just can't make it to the chip and can't build that. If I've got Henry and my team is not really competing, I'm getting rid of him. Otherwise, he is RB1 overall type talent because he can do it. I'm just not entirely sure that he's going to hold that up long term, because we are talking dynasty tiers here. He's already had almost 400 carries each of the last 2 seasons, and he's going to get that way this year again, pretty darn close to it. I think he had like 370 last year, 378 or something.
He's at 162 through 6 games.
Right. So that offense is going to continue to have to ride him to success. And that's how many times we've seen that curse of 400 touches. I mean, if he hits 400 touches, I would just stay clear of him next year in drafts. I mean, that's how much I've seen the 400 touches kind of mess with a guy. And we're seeing that this year with CMC, can't stay healthy.
And he conveniently had 397 touches last year, so I guess he doesn't qualify. But the other thing that I talked about a lot this offseason and into the season was him becoming the 8th running back in history to rush for over 2,000 yards, and what the previous 7 did. What's really interesting to me still is when you look at that trend is Derrick Henry, outside of his first 2 seasons when he was used sparingly in the Tennessee backfield, he has his lowest yards per carry this season of all of those seasons that he's been their lead back. And that is the big trend that I pulled out of those 7 previous. They all had a massive decline in yards per carry. He's just gone crazy with volume and touchdowns. So I don't know. I think you sell him. If you're contending, you absolutely keep him and ride him to the championship. I have 1 share, and it's in a league where I'm a contender, and I'm not looking to move him, but I sure will be this offseason if he makes it through to the end of the year.
Absolutely. The other one I wanted to bring up in this conversation is to the other end of the spectrum. So Najee Harris, we've only seen for, now 6 weeks in a season. Do we feel like this is the way production is going to continue with him? Because remember, Big Ben's not coming back after this year. If he does, that's just a travesty to football and fantasy football. So the offense isn't necessarily going to look the same this time next year. Anthony, do you think Najee is that kind of player that's going to ascend to this, number 1 overall type running back production?
Yeah, and I don't really fret over Ben Roethlisberger. I don't think he'll be back next year, but we could easily see someone like Aaron Rodgers there next year. I mean, it's not like there's no chance that the Steelers are going to be able to find someone to replace at quarterback. They'll probably have an upgrade at quarterback when you look at how Ben is this year and who they're going to probably have next year. So I really wouldn't be too worried about. I mean, if Najee can do it now with the way Ben looks now, then I don't think there's any concern about the future quarterback of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I looked at Najee coming out, and he kind of reminded me of Derrick Henry, but with hands. And I think Najee benefits from Ben moving on. I think that entire offense benefits from Ben moving on. So from what I've seen, I think he belongs in this tier. He's honestly, most weeks he's almost their entire offense. So he looks really good.
He has getting involved in the passing game as well, and some of those key pieces of a player that we love for fantasy. I mean, those catches out of the backfield have been very, very helpful.
Yeah,
all right.
That piece might fall off when Ben leaves because those are big time checkdowns. But yeah, it's totally beneficial.
Yep.
Want to talk the next tier?
Yeah. What do we got in the Dynasty top 6 running back tier?
All right. So we start this one off with Austin Eckler, and then Ezekiel Elliott, your Detroit Lions, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley, Antonio Gibson, Nick Chubb rounds out this tier. Anthony, what jumps out to you in this one?
Yeah, well, two guys jump out. I had them both in the higher tier than what they're currently in. That's Saquon and Eckler. So I thought that they were each deserving of that top spot. I believe they both have potential RB1 upside. And, you know, Barkley, yeah, he's been injured. I don't see him. Oh, there he is. Yeah, he's obviously been injured, but so has Christian McCaffrey. And we still have Christian McCaffrey up at the top spot. And to me, they're both very similar in what they can do. And so I think Saquon and Eckler should be at that top spot. I don't think I would take anyone off of that top spot. I think these guys are just that good. Like they could be that good as the number one overall running back. But otherwise, I think the list is very good. I don't have any real gripes or complaints with the remaining guys. And, you know, when I'm looking at the top, how many guys we have here? 13 guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, they're all solid choices. And if you have any one of these guys on your dynasty team, you should feel pretty good about it.
Well, and so you said Eckler was the other one, right? It was Saquon and Eckler you wanted to move up?
I personally would have them higher. Yes, sir.
So Saquon makes sense. I mean, Saquon's been one of those guys that everybody's loved for so long, but he continues to be hurt and not be able to produce for an elongated period of time. At least with CMC, we've seen him do it for an entire season or close to it. Saquon just can't stay healthy. So I get that. Eckler, the issue that I have with Eckler is I don't know what to make of him long term. You know, as I think about from a dynasty perspective, he already isn't the necessarily between the tackles runner, although he's been more of that this year, which I like to see out of him. I just don't know how long, or, you know, kind of the longevity at his position is. So that was where I struggled with it. The dude has top end talent, but how long am I going to get that? You know, do I get that for another season? Maybe 2, maybe 3.
And my argument is all these guys, you can make that same argument. How long can any of these guys last? I mean, outside of Najee Harris, who could you really say out of the guys on this list, yeah, they're going to be here for 3 years? I mean, I don't think you can make the same case for all these guys.
You could say that about Taylor Swift. Najee's about the same age as these guys are anyway, so you probably could say that. I don't know. I think we should move Eckler up right now, to be totally honest with you, because when I listen to Anthony talk about Eckler, I'm starting to think that, you know, I think I ranked him as, that's a redraft. I'm trying to think of where I ranked him in my dynasty rankings this year. I think I had him at 4 or 5. And I think he does have that number one overall potential. So I would be okay moving him up. My concern with Saquon, obviously it's health related, but more so it's change in personnel. So when he was a rookie and he was the RB1 overall, Eli Manning checked down to him like crazy. And Daniel Jones hasn't really done that in the time that they've played together. Now, granted, they haven't played a ton, and there's a lot more weapons in that Giants offense than there is now than there was then. So that year, I believe it was Ingram and Barkley and Eli, and that was it. Everybody else was hurt. So I'm not taking anything away from the talent that Saquon Barkley is. He's an incredible running back. I just don't know if he has that top end tier anymore.
Yeah, he's had so many different lower leg injuries that it's hard to tell at what point.
I mean, that last one though was so fluky. I mean,
the ankle.
But they're all fluky, right? Like an ACL is unfortunately bad, and it's not just injury, right? Like Dalvin had the torn ACL, and then he had the hamstrings, and then he came back, and he battles things all the time, but he's still in that tier, and we still look at him as being that kind of running back, and he's probably more of a health risk than anybody up here. But he's still there because of the overall talent. So I don't know. It's tough for me. Like, I think Eckler and Barkley, to Anthony's point, could be there.
Should be there.
Could be there.
Yeah, I don't know, I wouldn't move anybody down either. But I might move Eckler up, but I'm not going to move Saquon up.
If we see Eckler all year and he stays healthy. I mean, the dude's on pace right now to have the most rushing attempts he's ever had, so I was just pulling up his numbers, and right now he's got 73 attempts through 6 games.
So 2
where
years
he's
ago,
never had more than 132 in a season.
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I think he had 92 catches, like 110 targets or something along those lines, and
awesome.
that's what got him up there, right?
Yeah.
So in a PPR conversation, yes, he's definitely number 1 overall because he could get you 100 catches.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting coming into this season, Austin Eckler had 3 rushing touchdowns in his career. So I get what you're both saying. I'm going to lean a little bit more towards Anthony with this one. I would move Austin Eckler up, but I'm okay with where he is.
I like it. I like it.
Switzerland today, baby.
And it's, you know what? Hey, sometimes you got to do that. And and these, so we're splitting hairs at this point. These are all RB1s, right? Like these are all high end pieces.
Absolutely.
And a lot of these guys. So the question I want to pose back to you before we go to the next tier is, which one of these guys would you not want to build your team around? So let's say you're a rebuilding team who maybe is starting to get close to needing the running back piece. Which one of these guys would you not want to build your team around? And I'll start with you, Anthony.
The one that screams off the list is Ezekiel Elliott. And then I think we've already touched on Derrick Henry for a similar reason, just a little bit older. Maybe that cliff is a little bit closer than we'd like to admit. So those are the 2 guys that really jump off the page. And so if you're in a rebuild, those are 2 guys you gotta push. Otherwise, I don't really think you need to push anyone off your team, personally. And if you're not getting a good enough trade, then just wait. You don't be. A lot of guys get into like this mindset where, hey, I'm already 0-5. I'm going to rebuild and I'm going to just trade and get away. Like you can wait to trade. You have all season to trade. So just wait until you get the right deal. Don't just trade Derrick Henry. For I'm trying to think of a comp for a wide receiver comp. I don't know. Let's just go with like.
Well, there really isn't one right now. Would you trade Cooper Kupp for Derrick Henry?
Well, let's just go with like Devonta Smith, right? Like,
sure.
You don't just trade Derrick Henry away for Devonta Smith straight up because you're saying, "Oh, I'm rebuilding. I want a young wide receiver." Yeah, but Derrick Henry is worth 2 times as much as Devonta Smith. Oh yeah, but that's the best I could get. Then wait. I mean, you have all season to do this trade. So, yeah, maybe he'll get you a win or 2 here or there. He'll mess up your first overall pick for a second overall pick. That difference is not worth dealing him for a subpar value at that time. So just be patient, wait for the right move on those trades.
Agree. There's a few that jump out to me as a bit of a concern. Obviously, Derrick Henry, and I've said enough about that one. But the other 2 are Christian McCaffrey, believe it or not, and Aaron Jones. So Christian McCaffrey has since holy cow, who's his head coach, Brad?
Oh, Matt Rule. Matt Rule.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
He's missed 16 games in which Matt Rule has been his coach. And Matt Rule hasn't been there a whole long time. Like he's missed a lot of football, and lower leg injuries they don't go away, man. Like they just keep creeping up and coming back when you least expect it or want them to. So when he's on the field, is he a 30-point per game guy? Yeah, he has that potential. But that doesn't do me any good when he's missing 80 and 90% of the games that I have him. So he's a concern for me. And Aaron Jones is not what I thought Aaron Jones was going to be this season. And I don't imagine he's going to be something I want to build around without Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. So I would be a little weary of building around those guys.
Yeah. For me, I try to look at the kind of who's 25, 26 and under type range. That tends to be where if I'm about to be ready for running back, that's kind of where I would look. But it's such a tough situation because, CMC, Cook, Derrick Henry, Zeke. I mean, DeAndre Swift can't stay healthy. Aaron Jones, Saquon can't stay healthy. Most of these guys, I'm like, there's enough that you could point at that would make me go, yeah, maybe I'll look elsewhere. Like maybe I'll look for, And even Gibson's got the shin injury right now, but he hadn't really been hurt much before, So, and Nick Chubb's hurt right now. So I'm like, maybe
Chubb does have the injury history as well. Right?
And Chubb does. And the funniest thing is the one share of Chubb I had, I literally traded last week because I'm not quite ready. So the team I have had not. Fault. Well, yeah. So I had Najee, Chubb,
thanks a lot,
Zach Moss, and Sony Michel, and a few other like lower level running backs. I had Khalil Herbert as well. But my team was not ready to compete yet. Like I just got lucky and all those guys were on my team, but I still needed wide receiver help and some of those things. So I put Nick Chubb out there on the block and immediately traded him. And then the owner messaged me and said, can we do a redo? Can I have my stuff back? I said, nope. The players I want to build around here are Jonathan Taylor and Najee Harris, quite honestly. I mean, Alvin Kamara, I'd slide into there, Kamara's got plenty of things to be concerned about. That offense as a whole is just not.
There might actually be some guys I'd rather build around that we haven't even put up here yet.
Right. Well, absolutely. I mean, AJ Dillon looks really good. I mean, there's plenty of guys below that you're like, if I'm rebuilding and in the middle of, maybe.
And I've always been that sort of dynasty, especially build out my rosters at other positions and then figure out running back later. So in my startups, I'm typically pretty heavy wide receiver. Redraft, I'm not a 0 RB guy, but I'm a modified 0 RB guy. And I think what we're doing here, Anthony, where are you? Oh, there he is. I think really
Cody's got some things to say, so you just simmer down now, Leone.
Cody's got his own night. Tell him to settle down. I think we're solidifying the 0 RB or that modified 0 RB drafting style the last few years. Like when you look at the injuries to these running backs, to where we've invested our draft capital and what we're getting back, it's getting a little scary. Like, not to go totally off topic here, but if you have the first overall pick in a startup dynasty draft right now in a 1 QB, who do you take, Anthony?
For me, it's still Christian McCaffrey. And that's just because I have faith that I can get, good wide receivers because they're so deep, later in the draft. But I understand the argument to taking, like a top, flight wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb or Jamar Chase. Like I get it. You're going to have the longevity of the position. I totally get it. But at the same time, I just think that you can still get that value later in drafts anyway. So you got to walk a tightrope on some of these things, and sometimes you get burned either way. We've seen that with Christian McCaffrey. We've seen it last year with Michael Thomas. So either way, it's kind of a catch-22 sometimes.
Fair. Brad, who would you take?
If I'm at the 1-1 in a startup, I trade.
And you can't trade it, so don't go taking that.
No, look at this guy always trying to find the loop.
I already trading out of that pick, baby. Probably Najee. If I'm building my team, I mean, maybe. I haven't thought about it. I will say that my home league I bounced out of my home league this last year, and a couple guys did too. And we're gonna make a new home league in the off season. And I started thinking about that, the other day as I was building the league, constitutions and whatnot out. I'm like, what would I do with my first? It may be, a JT or a Najee or one of these other high-end running backs. It isn't.
It would be a running back though.
Maybe. I don't know if we're going to.
Chase. It wouldn't be Lamb. It wouldn't be Chase. It wouldn't be
Justin Jefferson.
Chase would be in the forefront of my mind for sure.
AJ Brown, sorry.
Yeah, Chase would be in the forefront of my mind. I really love him. AJ would be up. A lot of these high-end young pieces would be where I would. I always start young though. Like I try not to go after the solid veterans. I get it why somebody would do CMC or Saquon or any of these other elite names. I don't really care about the name. Like I want to win or I want to set myself up for success. And I'm starting to get a little nervous with these guys that just can't stay on the field. And Rick always gets on me about worrying about that injury business. But and
I don't like being that guy either. Like a couple of years ago, I was banging the drum for both Fournette and Cook, and everybody was worried about them being injured all the time, and I did okay there. But I'm I'm more and more concerned about the injuries as I get a little bit older, maybe because I'm more injured on a daily basis. I don't know. Who knows? I don't understand. All right.
Now I
tier
get it.
3 action for you?
Yeah. What's our Dynasty RB1s? So they aren't
All right.
number 1 overall, and they're not top 6 value, but we're the RB1s.
Yeah, we still like them. David Montgomery starts us off. Then we have Joe Mixon. Kareem Hunt. This is like a murderer's row of hurt right here. Cam Akers.
It is.
J.K. Dobbins. Like this is the IR tier.
Is there anybody that's playing this year?
Worried about Joe Mixon right now, being with this guys. Holy cow. Tony Pollard, Javonte Williams, and that's the last one in this tier. Anthony, what say you?
Well, of these guys for Dynasty, Javonte Williams is my favorite. He's the only one who is, I guess, not hurt and or starting. I guess maybe not with Melvin Gordon. I don't know what they're doing there. I don't know why he's not starting. He will be soon. So yeah,
I feel like Cody's coming any second.
I think Pollard is a little too high on this list. I mean, putting him as a RB1, maybe that's kind of a reach. I mean, I think he's really good. I think he's really good.
We both did. You didn't, Brett.
Yeah, I think he's really good. Maybe I'm gonna, after looking at, like seeing it, like I'm a visual learner.
We're putting him back down.
No, I mean, I think he's really good, and if things fall the right way for him, I believe he definitely could be an RB1. I don't think I could have him above any of these guys currently, though. So I think we could put him last on this current list. I feel a little bit better about that. Otherwise, though, I think it's a pretty solid list. All these guys next year, for example, could all be RB1s. I mean, I think that's the idea of this Dynasty tier list is, hey, who on here could be an RB1? Obviously, all these guys on this list can't be an RB1 because there's more than 12 guys on here. Right. But of these guys who could be an RB1, I think everyone here qualifies. Pollard could qualify, maybe not next year, maybe the year after, maybe the year after. I think that's kind of where we're going with that.
So earlier, though, you were concerned about Ezekiel Elliott in the tier in the top 6. So if Zeke isn't that top 6 potential guy, wouldn't Pollard then be the man? And like Pollard's on pace for over 1,000 rushing yards this year, and if he scores a few touchdowns, potentially could be an RB1 this year with Zeke. But if you're concerned about Zeke, then doesn't that open the door for Pollard?
It does, but at the same time, it's so speculative. Like there's so many things that could sway, between now and 3 years from now. I mean, a number of things could happen where it's like Pollard is nowhere near this list next year, or Zeke is nowhere near this list next year, or vice versa. Yeah. So it's just one of those things where, the cream rises to the top. Pollard has the skill set. I think he deserves to be on this list, but at the same time, I don't know if I could call him an RB1 in Dynasty, really.
Okay.
Is Tony Pollard just Austin Eckler 2.0?
Yeah.
No, I don't think he's that good.
Oh, yeah.
Austin Eckler's a better running back than.
But I think Tony Pollard could get better. I mean, it's like Austin Eckler is getting better. I think Pollard could easily, there's so many factors, but
I will say that Pollard's averaging 6 yards a carry this year so far, and Eckler's never been anywhere close to.
Yeah, but we also, I talked about that a couple weeks ago. It's like Pollard's getting like the primo spots for a running back. I mean, it's like when it's 3rd and 1, there's 9 guys in the box. Zeke gets 1 yard. Pollard's getting all the open field stuff when you're not really sure they're going to run or not. And so,
right.
And so a lot of that really comes into play. And I think a lot of times when you're looking at the stat page, you kind of overlook some of those details.
I think Kareem Hunt's in the wrong spot. And I don't really have a whole lot to say about that because I'm the guys who put him in this spot. But at the same time, I kind of wonder, obviously he's hurt right now, but that's got nothing to do with it. If he's healthy and Nick Chubb is healthy and Baker continues to struggle, does he really have RB1 upside? I don't know. And Joe Mixon. Every year we talk about Joe Mixon, the RB1, and every year Joe Mixon isn't an RB1. So
in my mind, it feels like Monty's the only one I feel comfortable in this conversation right now. Like Williams, I think will be. That's why I put him there. But
I like
the rest
Akers
of them, I'm
and
like
Dobbins here too, though. And I know that they're both coming back from injury, but I still like Akers and Dobbins both here.
Significant injury. That's my concern. They're both pretty significant
Akers is
injuries.
significant. I don't know if Dobbins is technically significant. And is an ACL still a significant injury? I guess it's not. It's not an abrasion, so I guess it's something legit. But no,
definitely a flesh
That's a
wound.
valid point.
So I mean, that in my mind, but even David, Monty's hurt, so
they're all freaking hurt.
They're all hurt.
Javonte Williams is the only one not hurt right now.
So real interesting. I wrote my Thursday start sit today, and it's Denver and Cleveland. And I don't think I've ever written a full article and told you to sit everyone, and I think I came close in this one. But what's really interesting in the Denver one is when I looked at Williams and Gordon's splits, it's about as 50-50 as it can get. They are, I think Gordon has 3 more carries and 1 less catch than Williams, and they're virtually identical in yards per carry and everything else.
It's like Gordon hasn't looked terrible. I mean,
no,
Gordon
but Melvin's just scored
bad.
a couple more touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Like I think Melvin's RB18 and Javante's RB30. So
yeah,
Anthony's right though. Eventually Williams gets that job.
I mean, you would think.
But I don't think he gets it until they're eliminated from the playoffs. I think Gordon and him split the whole way until that happens. But I think he belongs in this tier.
Oh, for sure. All right. So who are our RB2s? Well, these guys probably will be RB1s by the time we're done with the conversation. But who are they currently RB?
AJ Dillon, James Robinson, Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs, Darrell Henderson,
highway robbery. Sorry, go ahead. I'm just
Chris Carson,
speaking forth because you guys are doing some nonsense to me here.
Chase Edmonds,
what?
Canada's own Chuba Hubbard, CEH, my personal enemy and kryptonite Myles Gaskin, Alexander Madison, Damian Harris, Brad's BFF Michael Carter, no one's BFF Miles Sanders,
I like
Kenneth
him so much.
Gainwell. Oh, there's a lot of guys here. Elijah Mitchell, Leonard Fournette, JD McKissick, Gus Edwards. Is it everybody on this list? Khalil Herbert. It's all. Kenny Drake, Melvin Gordon, Tony Michelle.
I'm about to say, he had one good game, and we're going to put him as a Dynasty RB2, eh?
Who's that? Drake?
Khalil Herbert.
Oh,
don't get me wrong. I was banging the drum for him in the offseason, but we have a break we have to do because we have a super chat, so it will take over. Yep. So hold on, gentlemen. Hold your thoughts about Dynasty RB2 because Matt, thank you for the $4.99 in super chat, my friend. What's up, guys? Got a QB question for this week, if answering any. You donated, you get your question answered, my man. Burrow, Tannehill, or Matt Ryan?
You go, Anthony, if you're ready. I'm looking up the schedule. I'm sorry, I'm not sure who's playing who. So
I think it's Tannehill. Tannehill has a good matchup. I forget who he's playing.
Plays KC.
It's a good matchup.
Chiefs.
Yeah. So
Burrow
for me, it's Tannehill.
Is against.
They all have good matchups. I remember that much when I was looking at this earlier. They all have good matchups. For me, it's Tannehill because I just think that they're going to have to throw the ball. AJ Brown looks good.
Ryan has Houston.
How are the Titans 4-2? Their defenses look so bad.
And Joe Burrow has the Ravens. So I would go Tannehill, Ryan, Burrow.
Ryan Burrow.
I thought the Falcons had the Dolphins.
They do.
They do?
Yeah, 1 o'clock on Fox.
Oh, that's Arizona. My bad. I apologize.
It's okay.
We'll slide this over for now.
Titans at home against the Chiefs. For me, Tannehill, I think, is the answer. Personally, that's my idea.
So a little fun fact for you. Going into last week's game against Washington, Kansas City was giving up 7.2 yards per play. So that's pretty good for opposing pieces of offense. They tightened it up a little bit, and Washington didn't look very good last week. But I don't know. I think Tannehill, second half yesterday, really kind of amped it up a little bit and became sort of Tannehill from last year. So maybe he's figured something out there. Matt Ryan's sort of figured it out a little bit over the last couple of games as well. So I think it would be Tannehill for me. Matt Ryan wouldn't be far behind, but Joe Burrow's a pretty far behind third for me.
Yeah, Matt Ryan is
can
in
also
my Matt Ryan is in my QB streamer article this week, which
That makes sense.
posted earlier today. It's on rotoheat.com. But Tannehill, if he was owned as low as Matt Ryan is, would have been higher than him for sure.
For sure.
So yeah.
And I want Tua to be good. I just don't know if he will be.
Yeah, I excluded Tua this week. I think there's a lot of upside with Tua, but there's also a lot of volatility. I agree with Matt. You're very shaky.
The floor is
And
low.
I'm not confident enough to throw him in there because I don't know if I don't trust him. Could he get pulled if he throws 3 or 4 picks in the first half? Could he get pulled? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
So
he looks like he's getting on the same page now that he's back from injury. Him and Waddle looked good together. Going against Atlanta, that's just a weak defense where I think he'll look good against defenses like this, but I definitely think he's a shaky long-term play. If you're going week to week, if this is your option, I wouldn't hate it, but I would rather Tannehill. I would rather Burrow, I'd rather Ryan. Those guys all more than 2 of this week for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
So thank you, Matt. We do appreciate your kindness and generosity.
We sure do.
And there was another question earlier. We'll get to that after
Yep.
I think we're done here with this conversation. If you guys have any other questions, throw them in. We got waivers tonight.
We will
dive into
talk
all that.
Dearness Johnson and the Cleveland running back situation a little bit just to help you figure out what to do with that. But that being said, Dynasty RB2. So these are guys that we think are definitely solid pieces. I'm very concerned that, we've got a guy like James Robinson who just continues to be an RB1 sitting in the Dynasty RB2 conversation. Like, I feel so bad for him because he's done so well. Why do we keep putting him down here, Anthony?
Which one were you talking about? Who?
James Robinson.
James Robinson. Look, he's really good. I know they drafted ETN. I like ETN too. But James Robinson, he's showing he can play. ETN, we don't know what's going to happen there next year. I don't know if Urban Meyer even is going to be there next year. So I don't know what's going on there. But I think at this point, we just have to trust that, James Robinson now is proving after a full year of already proving it, he's a legit running back in this league. I think he's a piece to build around. And we were just talking about, guys you can build around. I don't know
about that.
Well, not as an RB1, but he's a guy you could get pretty cheap, I think, especially when you compare him to a lot of other names on this list. And he's certainly a guy to have on your. I'd love to have James Robinson. I'm looking at my leagues with all the buys this week. I'd love to have James Robinson this week.
I was talking to a pretty predominant Roto Heat team member today, and I was trying to.
Wasn't us.
Make a trend. No, I said like an actual important one.
You used a big word on me, so I didn't know
about
that
potentially trading James Robinson in a first for Austin Eckler, but hasn't happened yet. So my concern with James Robinson is not the player and it's not the talent, it's the situation, and that situation isn't changing anytime soon. Now, when you look at the peripherals of James Robinson, he needs a lot of volume.
Away from changing.
He needs volume to give you the production that he has. And that's really not unlike most running backs. That makes sense. The more touches they get, the more production that they have the potential to provide. ETN is probably going to cut into that somehow, you would think. We don't know what Urban Meyer is going to do. If Urban Meyer is going to be there, or he's going to go to LSU, or he's going to go to here or there, or just going to go home, or maybe he's just going to go to a bar in Ohio. We don't really know what Urban Meyer is going to do. But none of that really changes. Like, James Robinson wasn't Urban Meyer's problem to deal with in the first place anyway. So the next head coach after that, it won't be his either. And Travis Etienne's always going to be a first-round drafted running back, and James Robinson's always going to be an undrafted free agent running back. And for whatever reason, that means a lot. So I don't think James Robinson necessarily gets a backfield to himself unless things fall apart around it. And that's what we're seeing. And that's what we saw last year.
But in my opinion, even if it
good
isn't
on
to
him
himself,
for taking advantage of it.
But even if it isn't to himself, he can still.
Okay.
I mean, if you had, let's just pretend James Robinson and ETN was still healthy.
Okay.
Very similar to Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. I mean, both these guys can be productive.
But it wouldn't be. It would be similar to Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon.
Oh, that's fine. And they're both RB2s. I mean, there we go.
Javonte Williams is running back 30. So that's what you'd be looking at a James Robinson in and around that range if he split the work down the middle.
No, Javonte Williams would match up in this comparison more with ETN, wouldn't he? Rookie running backs. Melvin Gordon is the RB18. That's an RB2.
No. ETN would have more touches than Robinson if they were both healthy. Just like Gordon has more touches than Williams, both healthy.
I don't think that's fair to. I don't think it's fair to.
Who drafts a running back in the first round to give more touches to the undrafted free agent?
The guy who stays behind after his team leaves the stadium and goes back home to draft.
Doesn't matter though. It's still a situation where.
He's and another guy on this. Look at Sony Michel. I mean, what's up with Sony Michel? Well, I don't even know how Sony Michel's on this list. RB2? Are you guys smoking?
Did I rate him as an RB2? I don't think I rated him as an RB2. Did I?
What don't you like about Sony Michel?
I hope he leaves LA.
He just got there. No, I just don't see it with Sony Michel. Talk about injury, even healthy, nothing. I mean, even when he had a couple games without Darrell Henderson, I mean, he didn't really show anything. Between the two, Sony Michel, James Robinson, you'd rather have Sony Michel to build around? I mean, there's no chance.
No, I'd rather have James Robinson.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at these RB2s, the ones that I'm excited about long term, Dillon, Jacobs, Michael Carter. I mean,
Madison?
I'm looking at this list. I'm like,
are you excited about Michael Carter long term?
Oh, baby. I'm the Michael Carter fan club, spokesperson.
Doesn't Michael Carter look like a kind of guy that just keeps the running back room warm and the towels folded and everything clean until they get good and get a real running back in there?
If you like
I just don't see him long term.
Javonte Williams, how do you not like Michael Carter?
Size for one and ability to break tackles for two and durability for three. Who do I envision lasting longer in this league? It's Javonte Williams over Michael Carter. And I like Michael Carter, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see him long term.
Brad, you like Javonte Williams less than Michael Carter?
No, I like him. I like him the same. If
I had Michael Carter and you had Javonte Williams, and I offered you Michael Carter and a second round pick, you'd give me Javonte Williams?
I'd probably consider it for sure. Because I like them both very similarly. They're tiered.
You're starting this new Dynasty League, right? Maybe I can get in on that.
You could. Well, I'm sure I'll be inviting. I'm sure I'll be looking to invite a couple people. I'll be trading my 1-1 to you so you can get CMC.
Oh, thank you.
And you'll be losing the league in the first year. So
this is an interesting tier, though, right?
It's weird.
So weird. These
bottoms
are weird.
I don't know if Chuba should be in there.
No,
I think there's a lot of recency bias that's going on right
Chase,
now, right?
Khalil,
Elijah Mitchell. Yeah, it's a really weird kind of hodgepodge. But that kind of goes to show anything can happen from now to 2 years from now.
Totally.
It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of these guys moved up, and it wouldn't surprise me if we've never heard a lot of these names ever again.
100%, right? You talk about opportunity and needing work to get production, which makes sense. Is you look at some of the guys on here, right? Like Alexander Madison. If Dalvin Cook doesn't play, Alexander Madison typically gets a lot of touches and does quite well. Sony Michel did well in the games that he had opportunity. Darrell Henderson's doing well because Cam Akers is hurt. My boy Alex Collins has a little bit of life because Chris Carson's hurt. So it's such a volatile position. Who knows, right? To Anthony's point, there could be half these guys on this list don't even play football in 3 years, or 2 years even, right? So
yeah,
who knows?
Well, and this time next year, we're including guys that come out in the draft. The the Spillers of the world and some of these running backs in college still, because they're
And
just
not
so
the
good.
greatest, not the greatest class. Is that accurate?
I mean, it's probably like this year where it's pretty top heavy. Like there's from the running back position, the wide receiver position. I'm already probably thinking there's 8 to 12 viable fantasy wide receivers in this draft class. But the running back position is probably 2 to 4 type high end pieces that people get excited about. But because the quarterback class is so weak and the tight end class is unknown, I think it'll kind of push up some of these other players. But we'll see. I mean, it's still early in the process.
Well, that's not good. If we have a weak QB class coming up and a weak tight end class coming up.
Well, so the tight end class has talent, but it's just been a lot of unproven talent, like guys that are in situations that typically don't bode well for tight ends.
Isn't every year a bad tight end year?
I guess it just
So
depends.
They've been drafting for what, 50, 60 years in this league, and there's
Oh no!
4 or 5.
Oh
4 or
no!
5
We
good
stepped
tight
on the
ends
Sully.
every year.
We stepped on the Sully landmine of tight endness.
So Hawkinson and Fant, that was a nice tight end draft. Any others?
Pitts and Freiermuth.
Freiermuth. Yeah,
Okay, that one
Pat's
has
already
potential.
taken over. Yeah, there's
That
some
one has
room there.
potential. He looks really good. He looks as good as Pitts does right now, which is
OJ Howard's finally pulling through.
That class sure had potential with Njoku and Howard and Ingram, and they've all kind of had injury woes and other things. But
but the issue with that class was there was just a lot of raw talent, so they never got developed.
Every year it's like, man, these tight ends look really good this year, and then every year it's like, nope, they're still shit, and it's 9.5 points gets you top 12 tight end role.
But the problem with if there's some tight ends that have some hype, then it helps push some wide receiver value down the board, like in the second round. But if we have a draft like Brad is, I know it's early, but he's kind of forecasting here. Hey, not a lot of tight ends, not a lot of QBs to get excited about. Man, that it's going to dry up real quick this year in those rookie drafts. I mean, early second round, and you could just be done. I mean, so maybe, keep a close eye on it. Things can change, but if you're competing right now, you're looking at your draft picks for next year. If you have a second and third, maybe now would be the time to offload them if you're late in the draft anyway.
The few leagues where I wasn't truly competing, I just stocked up. I mean, I don't know what I'll do with all the picks I've got. There's one league where I've got like 3 firsts, 3 seconds, multiple thirds. I'm like, well, we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll be bundling. But I mean, it's still so early and we don't know which underclassmen declare. I mean, there's just always so many moving parts to it that I hate to forecast too early, but me, I'm always watching college film anymore. So always trying to stay on top of that. So that's that, folks. Our Dynasty Tiers mid-season edition. Who knows? Check back with us at the end of the season, and it'll probably be completely different. But that's the fun of it, Well, and that's the fun of it. I mean,
we could do it again next week, and it'll be different, right?
Yeah, it'll be very different. So I want to make sure as we end the show to get to some questions. I know we got a few out there that we want to touch on. We'll go through them real quick. Anthony, welcome, my friend. Hey guys, need a little help. Who would you drop? I need to get a QB. Collins, Latavius Murray, Carter, Landry. Probably Carter. As much as I love Carter,
it's hard not knowing. It's hard not knowing. The kind of the roster construction. I mean,
vacuum it.
All of these guys are relatively droppable outside of Murray. I'd want to hold on to Landry if I could. So it kind of comes down to Collins and Carter. I don't know if Collins is starting. Is he going to play this week or is he hurt? I know he has another questionable tag.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'd probably do Collins.
I would too, and it pains me because him and I are friends. But I would let Collins go. To Anthony's point, he's banged up. He's got a bit of a hip/glute injury that might keep him out. Pete Carroll says he'll probably play, so that means he won't because Pete Carroll lies.
Let me add, if the quarterback, this is strategy. If the quarterback, options like we had earlier are pretty plentiful, and they are this week. I mean, you got Matt Ryan, Tua, you got a bunch of guys you could possibly choose from that are all kind of even anyway. I would wait until Saturday, Sunday to drop Alex Collins. So then if he does start, he's still on waivers throughout that whole process, and you don't have to worry about someone else picking him up.
Button hooking the owners.
I don't think that's a bad way to go, but if I looked at that list again, I'd probably drop Collins out of all of them, healthy or not.
You can also drop your kicker and add the quarterback, and then just kind of wait and see what happens.
There you go. All right. So, Matt, Hunter Henry or Tyler Higbee for a stream this week? Higbee's going against Detroit. We've kind of been up and down against the tight end, but it's more so the team's tight end that they were facing than the team itself.
For me, it's Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I'd probably go Hunter Henry as well because he's kind of become a focal point for this offense.
So the New York Jets, surprisingly, are one of the best teams year to date against the tight end position. I don't care. It's Hunter Henry for me.
All right, so there you go.
He's taken over there. I don't know what happened to Jonnu, but Henry has taken over.
Yeah, Jonnu's just like a ghost.
It's blocking.
Yeah.
That's it.
So as we ended, I want to.
Oh, there's another question. Another question.
Where?
Yeah, we just got one.
I see it.
Oh, I see it. All right. Blue Houndour. Should I trade Godwin for Calvin Ridley?
If you're getting Calvin Ridley, absolutely.
If this is a redraft league, yes.
Every format
Dynasty
known to fantasy
too.
football.
Ridley
There's not
all
a
the way.
format. There's not a
think
format
so?
that exists that I don't want Calvin Ridley over Chris Godwin.
You think so?
I
don't
could
know.
probably think of a format where I wouldn't. It would have to be a really creative.
A Tampa Bay only Chris.
Yeah,
wide
it
receiver
would have
league?
to be a
Maybe.
really creative league.
5 points per Tampa Bay player
Yeah.
to catch.
You got to remember, Godwin is
Yeah.
playing on a 1-year term and probably isn't back playing with Grandpa Brady next year, and who knows where he's going to end up.
I'd say
And
I'm
could
probably
have-
happier if he doesn't because it seems
Why?
like Brady doesn't like him that much, right?
No, there's just so many mouths.
There's only
to
one
feed.
football. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's Ridley though for me. It's Ridley.
Oh, another question.
Yeah,
not
all
going
right.
anywhere.
Well, I want it. Okay, so we're taking one more question, and the
one more
rest of them I'm
question.
skipping.
One more
right.
question.
Terry or Ridley rest of the season? I'd say Ridley.
Yeah, I'd
Why
say
do you
Ridley.
hate Calvin Ridley?
Yeah,
I picked him.
I say Ridley.
Well,
if
because-
I have to.
Because that Atlanta offense just doesn't excite me at all, but neither does the
But they
Washington.
got to throw all
offense.
day, right?
And he's already had his bye week. Let's
And
go,
he took an
baby.
extra week off too.
Let's
So he's
go.
rested. Yeah, that's Calvin
so
Ridley
there
from
you
here
go.
too as well. And I love Terry McLaurin, especially if Fitzpatrick gets back. But I still
All right,
love
rapid
him.
fire. Which defense are you picking up?
Look at this.
I love
Look at
this one.
this.
This one. We are answering
Um,
this because they took the time to type this out. I love it.
Hang
Zuda,
on.
welcome, my friend.
I like the Giants this week, and I can't remember why. Give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, let's throw a shout out to our weekly defense stream article on rotoheat.com. I'm sure at least one or two of these teams is on that list, and
Yeah.
that's
I
where
also-
I put
I
my
also-
faith.
I'm about to say, I also post a tiers, defensive special teams tiers article.
Ooh.
Typically Thursday. I think it's Thursday morning it drops. So if you're looking for a boomer bust, I'm probably going the Chiefs against Tannehill because their defense is actually not as bad as it looks, and that will cause some things to happen, but who knows?
I don't like
I would have to do a little more digging into it. I don't really feel good about it.
Ravens have a good matchup this week, right? Who are the Ravens
Cincinnati,
playing?
no,
The
that's not a good
Bengals,
matchup.
I don't think that's
That's
a
not
great.
very
Their
good.
secondary's not been that good this year, and those two
Mhm.
wide receivers could eat them alive. I like the Giants, an underrated running defense against the Carolina Panthers, and an absolutely struggling Sam Darnold, and no CMC again. I think that's a decent one there, and
There you go.
you're
Giants it
looking
is.
for sacks, you're looking for turnovers. So I think Carolina can give you both of those. So I'm going to go with the Giants this week.
All right. So one question I've been getting a ton that I want to make sure that we talked about here, and we'll probably talk tomorrow a little bit about Cleveland running back situation. Dearness
There's
Johnson.
actually a question too. Look at that, Mark.
Yeah. We'll get
Shout
to that.
out
As
Mark.
as we're getting to that. That's why I'm
Okay,
bringing this
sorry,
up, because we're
sorry,
going to get
sorry.
to Mark's question. So Dearness Johnson will be available. Demetric Felton in most leagues was probably taxi squad because this is a dynasty show. I'm looking
Yeah.
from a dynasty perspective.
Yeah.
How much are you spending of your fab in a dynasty league? This isn't redraft. Check tomorrow for redraft. What are you spending on a guy like Dearness Johnson if you're the Hunt owner or the Chubb owner or somebody who's hurting at running back and needing that play? Anthony.
Well, first I have to give a shout out to our Discord. I always get reminded of our Discord channel because we just talked about this on there today. And I think Dearness Johnson is going to basically fill in for Chubb indefinitely. So if you have Chubb, it's more of a priority ad, obviously. And in a redraft league, I'm spending quite a bit, probably 30% of my fab. In a dynasty, if I'm not starting Dearness Johnson, he's not really someone I really want to add anyway. And typically in a dynasty league, you have deeper benches. You probably have someone better than Dearness Johnson anyway. So probably 10 to 20% max. But I also will probably not get him in any of those spots just because I think some people are going to overpay for him.
I'm going to have to, because in one dynasty league that I am literally at the top of the standings, I had Fournette and Hunt are my two main running backs. So that league, I'm going, I'm going all in. Maybe not all the fab, but a significant chunk of it.
Yeah.
Sully, what are you doing?
I don't want any piece of them unless I absolutely desperately need a running back. Dearness Johnson is not going to be a PPR back. He's going to be a running downs back only. So that stunts his growth for me quite a bit. I don't think Nick Chubb's going to be out super long. We saw Dearness Johnson last season I think it was for 4 weeks, and we all got excited because the game in which Chubb actually got injured was week 4 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Dearness Johnson took, I think it was about 13 carries for 95 yards, and he might have scored in that game. The other 4 games that he played, he might have had 25 yards rushing max in one of those games. So this isn't a talent. This is a guy that's got some opportunity. Felton, I really like. I think he has the opportunity to he's done most of his damage this year lining up in the slot after Landry went out. Now, Landry could come back this week. So Felton could play a little bit of running back and be more of the Hunt in that offense, for lack of a better term. But we could have Case Keenum under center for Cleveland this week. So unless I'm absolutely desperate for a running back, I don't want any piece of either one of those guys.
Yeah, and there's no situation where I'm starting Dearness Johnson over Antonio Brown. I mean, Antonio Brown is your flex option here, Mark, for sure. And if you guys have any doubts about that, I mean, that's crazy talk.
No. Yeah, that's Antonio Brown gives you top 12 weekly wide receiver 1 upside.
Okay. All right, last question from our boy Ray Fryer. Cordero Patterson or Ridley? So this is an all Atlanta question. Which Atlanta player are you starting the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's still Ridley. Patterson's going to have some regression on the touchdowns, and I think Ridley just hasn't. He's going to have some positive regression himself. So I think for me, it's pretty easily Ridley.
Yeah, I tend to take the best player when I can, and it's easily the best player is Calvin Ridley. So,
yep, no question.
That's it.
Look at that. See, I like Ridley. I like him more than Cordero Patterson.
I like that last comment from Bluth as well. I agree.
Oh yeah. Dearness has greater opportunity to disappoint than he does to produce, for sure.
Denver's a good run defense too. So
overall, yeah, for sure, they're a very good defense. But still, if you're a team that's competing and you need running back help, you have to spend, because otherwise somebody else is going to get it, and then you're stuck without a running back, right?
It's okay to lose in week 7.
It's gonna be an ugly Thursday night football this week.
It's never okay.
It's gonna be an ugly week in general, guys. I've never seen a buys like this in my life. I swear the schedule makers got together to screw fantasy football this week. Like, there's some amazing offenses that are not playing this week. So but again, if you lose this week, you're not dead yet. So don't kill yourself and your future to try to win like I do when I trade first round picks for Andy Dalton. So unless
you're Stebbs and in a guillotine league. Then you got some issues.
We have a guillotine league real quick here that Anthony and I participate in, and one of our good friends, Stebbs, has 8 guys of a 14-man roster on bye this week in the guillotine league. So
goodbye,
Stebbs. We'll take good care of those players.
Thanks for joining. That is it. And not only is that it for Stebbs, but that is it for us. Thank you guys as always for hanging out with us. We're doing tiers, and we'll be doing them kind of sporadically throughout the season to give you our updated thoughts on the different dynasty tiers that are out there for quarterback, wide receiver, running back, all that. So be on the lookout for that as time goes by. see our weekly plays. You know, you can see our weekly tiers on where the team ranks these guys that you should play each week. As always, like, subscribe, hit the notification icon, and we'll see you guys later.